Hello, can we settle down? Oh, you got some more? Right. Is she coming or going? Right, hello, welcome to this teaching masterclass. My name's Amroz, I'm editor of TES and I'm on the Global Teacher Prize Committee, and so it gives me great pleasure to introduce Joe Fathery to you. I got it wrong, Joe, didn't I?
No, that was an A+.
All right. I was practicing that one. When Joe began teaching almost 30 years ago, you don't look old enough to
I hardly look
that.
107, I know.
He quickly found that his 16 to 18-year-old at-risk students did not respond to the methods he'd learned in teacher training. So ready to change everything to be able to connect with them, he asked the students how they wanted to be taught. Today, not only do his students learn by producing music, books and short films on topics like poverty, death, bullying, homelessness and human rights, and their productions meet professional media industry standards, there are now over 30 cities in the USA where his entrepreneurism program are used. So welcome to Joe.
Thank you. I flew 7,500 miles to come teach because that's what I love to do. And I really am excited to share a story with you today. It's called A New Paradigm. I don't know a time in our history when it's more important for our students to be able to harness the power of their voice and to be able to use multiple media forms to connect to a diverse audience all over the world. I want you to think about that, how important it is for these kids to do that. And if you listened this morning to Andreas talk, he was talking about the world needs students that can innovate. We need Renaissance men. And that the traditional get information and just have it is not enough. But unfortunately what's happening is the structures that we have set up are so rigid in most schools around the world. Innovation is a very difficult place to happen. And I mean innovation just for children to be able to get up and move and react and to do things. So while my focus is media, I want you to understand one thing. Media to me is anything from using high-end production cameras to 3D printing to a cardboard box. It's whatever the story needs to be told on. But first and foremost, it's about telling story. And so I'm going to take you through some things here in a little bit. When people come into my classroom, their jaws just drop. We had 75 superintendents in my room the other day, and they walked in the door and their mouths just hit the floor because they're not used to seeing kids talk and walk and act and have the confidence like they have after being in the program. And when they come in, and I need to have my slides up, please, if I could, they see nothing. There we go. They see a classroom without walls where we travel all over the world and we put our students in every position possible to be challenged. This is the Telluride Film Festival a few years ago, and while kids all across the United States were back in their classroom doing worksheet number 7,842, my students were out hanging out with Andy Garcia and the heads of the major film industry because they wanted to get out and they wanted to learn, and my school is very supportive of these things. It's me working with my students when we're challenging them. What can you do? I keep telling my students the world's first trillionaire will be the person who figures out how to take trash and be able to reduce the world's footprint with it and be able to make usable materials. So we gave the challenge one day and they made a hammock and they're like, Mr. F, we can't sell this if you're not quality control. So they're balancing me above the floor trying to lift me up. It's us having seat time. I call it dad time, where we sit and we talk and we visit on issues, not only pedagogical issues, but issues in life, because they have to know that you're an authentic teacher, willing to get in there and roll your sleeves up and work with them. They see us traveling to different parts far across the world so that they can study and they can learn about diverse people groups and they can write stories and they can share them on the global scale. They see kids finding out about an impoverished neighborhood 150 miles away and saying, Mr. Fathery, we can do better. We have a moral and ethical obligation as 17-year-old children to go to this homeless shelter and to find a way to help them out. So this is where math matters, because we partnered with one of the poorest school districts in the nation, and all of a sudden when you say, you know what, we're going to redo a homeless shelter, and you got to understand that every day that a 5-year-old walks in this building, they're going to see your work. So you ask me about assessment and what matters. It's not filling in a bubble. It's changing lives. It's giving kids purpose and passion to be able to work. And you can imagine worksheet 8000 number 12 or this, and why geometry matters. They see the No Barriers Project, where they heard about kids in need all over the state of Illinois and in Missouri. And so they went out and collected 50,000 articles of clothing. They found computers, they found books. They went out and found literacy experts that would go into homes of young mothers who needed assistance and made literacy a part of their lives. And these are 16-year-old kids that are doing these things. That's what people see. They see us participating in the One Day on Earth project, where if you are familiar with this, in 2010, a historic film crew went out and they literally filmed, I believe, in every country on the earth on the same day. It was October 10th of 2010. Our students had the opportunity to participate in that. They told a powerful story in there about agriculture and how we feed the world. Their homework assignment was to do it so well enough that their film footage would premiere in every country on the earth on the same day, and they were invited to the UN headquarters to go see this. So I want you to think about being 16 and having a place on the global stage. It's being invited to the International Human Rights Summit at UNESCO and producing a documentary film about what the world should look like from the eyes of a 17-year-old and how we should all treat each other as brothers and sisters around the world. Now that's very heady stuff for a 17-year-old child. It's about taking, when our veterans come in every year and we have over 1,000 people show up, and these kids write stories, and they get up and they put themselves out in front of 1,000 people, and by the time the show's over, everybody's crying because they write stories with emotion. If you've seen the 3D viewers that are out in the lobby, our students are designing these and printing these and sending them around the world. We have a few of the ambassadors here that we've already sent them to Malaysia, Poland. We're sending one to Kenya. And the kids are designing these products so that the kids can go around the world and shoot footage of their homeland in 3D and learn about each other's communities. It's about taking something like Minecraft and creating new interactive games for 4th grade students that are aligned to the Common Core, so students who hate mathematics all of a sudden love school. It's about working with a young lady who was suffering with clinical depression and was writing poetry. And I found what she was writing, and I said, my goodness, you can write. And by the end of the year, she had published a 93-page book on her journey trying to overcome clinical depression. That's what people see at first when they, thank you, that's what people see when they first come into my room. I wish they were there the first day of school. My students are so afraid. They tremble when they walk into my classroom, and I'll get choked up about this because I get really, 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 really passionate about my kids. And at 17 and 18 years of age, they are frozen. And I'm going to tell you why they're frozen. It's because when Johnny raises his hand in 2nd grade, and I know the answer to math, and he didn't. And every child in the classroom laughs at him. That hand is never going up again in math class. It's about Susie whenever she went to Grandma's house over the weekend, and she learned this wonderful poem that her grandma, it was the source of her inspiration whenever her and her husband met. And she went to school to tell it, and she messed up on the first line. And she never stood on the stage again. So what we do is over time, we build a system of fear in our children. And so I am if you walk into my classroom, sometimes you can say, what are they doing? And I can tell you exactly what they're doing. But I know there's a fine line between creativity and chaos. And I understand the value of the learning standards. I understand the value of assessment. And I definitely understand the value of meaningful evaluation. But sometimes in our schools around the world, we have let those things overshadow us so much. I can tell you in the United States, we are testing our children to death. We are testing our children to death. And what we do is we have replaced what I'm about to walk through something with you with. We've replaced these really valuable toolkits with time that we have to spend on testing at all times. So if you come to my classroom and you ask me why my kids do these things, and I wish you could all come. You have an open invitation at Effingham High School. You come anytime. You got a place at my house. We would love to have you there. My kids would love to take you on a journey. So next year, Summit at Effingham, Illinois. All right, we'll work and see if we can get that to happen. But what I want you to know is what we spend the first 3 weeks of the year deprogramming the last 10 to 12 years of my kids' learning. I want you to think about that. Deprogramming fear and concern about what happens if I mess up, if failure. I spoke at a school district a few years ago, and a principal asked me, he said, how do you teach? And I said, we teach through failure. And he goes, oh, you would never make it here because our students don't fail. And I thought to myself, then you have capped the growth potential of every child in your school. Because the greatest inventors, the greatest designers, the greatest scientists, the greatest parents, the greatest doctors, we can make a list a mile long. They have all failed, but what set them apart from everyone else was they looked at failure as a part of the learning process and they fired through it. So I'm going to take you on a journey a little bit, and I know it's been long in the day and everybody's tired and it's a little bit hot, so I'm going to ask you to do 3 things with me. First of all, I'm going to ask you to have fun and participate in this process. There is real merit to it. I would ask that whenever I start the lesson, I will start by clapping twice and I will stop by clapping twice. All right? And then I would say while you're working on your project, that if you'll hear me talking, I talk and teach and talk and walk and do that a lot. I would ask you just to continue on. All right? So ignore me like my dog does at home. All right? So it'll be fine. So what I would ask is, I have given you a balloon and a marker. I would ask you to please stand up. And now we're going to have some fun. I tell my kids every year in my hand, I have the most powerful thing in the world. I have the cure for cancer. I have the ability to end global warming. And they look at it, and some of you are going to look at this and say, really? They should send you back 7,556 miles away. But I want you to think about this, because I show them a balloon. And they're like, really, Mr. Father, that's a 2-cent balloon. What it is today is an idea incubator. And we're going to incubate an idea. So I'm going to give you a minute and a half, and time is relevant to where I'm at. I'm going to tell you that up already. I'm going to give you a minute and a half, and I want you to think about one thing as it applies to this summit. One thing. If you could do one thing in the world to make change happen where teachers mattered, what would it be? And then I want you to boil that down into a single word. You are going to blow up your idea incubator, and you're going to write that word on the idea incubator. Everybody got that? Go. This is a really important process, because my kids, when they come to class, they do not understand how to get ideas. They struggle with this, and so we spend a lot of time talking about how you develop ideas over time. For me, I go out and I meet people, I talk to people, I read a lot. I am constantly collecting ideas. And we have an excellent group of idea incubator inhalers here. I am very impressed. And be creative when you write. Be yourself, whether it's old school Times New Roman size 12 font, whether it's graffiti, calligraphy, whatever you want, write your idea in a single word on your idea incubator. Now you're going to look at this in a little bit and you're going to say, wow, I'm taking this to my next CEO board meeting. Because it's going to be a different way to get people to think in your building. You got 15 seconds, and I see some people struggling, blowing up their idea incubator over here, so. Yeah, and if you need another idea incubator, we have them up here. They're available, all right? Sometimes they explode, all right? All right, so up with me. The next thing I would ask you to do is this. I want you to find one resource, if you could get it, would make your idea a reality. and write that on your idea incubator, please. One resource, and I'm going to tell you what, this is really, really, really important because our students, they do not understand how to get resources. And so what we do through this process is we walk them through about, okay, what type of human capital, what type of financial capital do I need, what type of resources do I need in terms of technology. All of those pieces of information they need. I want one word for the resource. It can be whatever you need it to be, is your resource. Okay, the last step I have, and then I'll let you sit, is I would ask you to write down one problem you're going to face while you're developing this idea. One problem that you're going to face. This is a really difficult thing for my students because they come up with these great ideas and then they struggle with resources and then they get to the point where, Mr. Father, there's a problem. I don't know if I want to do my idea. And that's okay if they don't want to because they realize the risk factor on it is not worth, the benefits aren't worth the risk. But sometimes they find out they're definitely worth that. Again, one word. So what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to take and I'd like you to look at your idea incubator. You have just created a business plan for your idea. It's not on paper and it's very rough. But I want you to think about the number of CEOs who have built major companies on a napkin in a bar. You're just doing it on a balloon. And what we're doing in this case is we are making a process that students don't understand. It's now concrete. Now I want you to take your idea and hold it out in front of you a little bit, and you can look at it, you can bounce it over your head, you can do things with this. And here's what I tell my kids, it's really important for you to look at your idea from multiple perspectives. And I want you to think about that because there are different entry points for ideas. And again, our students are not used to this. They're used to taking your worksheets or your lectures in linear motion, and that's what they fill out. They are not used to taking and looking at stuff this way. So we've looked at our idea, and now the next hardest thing we're going to do, and this is really hard, I want you to take your idea out and hold it, and I want you to look around the room. And just look for a minute, and I'm going to call on a couple of people. What do you see? Can somebody tell me what you're seeing as you're looking around the room? You're seeing what? Passionate people. Excellent. What else are you seeing? A lot of ideas. I'm seeing diversity. I'm seeing color. I'm seeing all kinds of things. So here's the hardest part for my kids. And you can sit down. Thank you for standing up. A lot of you are about to your limit there with that. Here's what I want you to do next, and this is the hardest part for kids because you've made that idea personal. It's yours. And it should be. And I tell my kids, you be proud of your idea. It may be the worst book ever, but it's your book. And you had the intestinal fortitude to work for 6 months to write a 93-page book. You should be proud of that. That film piece that you did, one of my friends who has cancer right now, and we used to make films together, he said this story once, and I really thought it was profound. He says, you know what, it's really hard to make a bad movie. And everybody laugh about it, and he goes, and it's almost impossible to make a good one. And I want you to think about that because this is hard, but this is your idea. And so what I want you to do now is I want you to turn to a thought partner, and I want you to spend the next minute and a half sharing ideas. Please, just talk about how we can make teachers matter. We're a little smudged, aren't we? Good penmanship. Excellent creativity. That's right, you're texting and writing at the same time. How are we doing? I love it. I love it. How about you? He's still working? I love. That is powerful. Powerful. Okay, I'm going to bring you back together. Now, I want you to think how many sessions you've been in today to hear that energy. That is music. That is a symphony in my classroom because that is learning. And I want to hear 4 or 5 ideas that we came up with. Can somebody share? I had one over. Yes? Play. I love that. I love that. What else do we have? Yes? Respect. Oh, wouldn't that be the theme to have? Yes. Global citizenship. Power in global citizenship. Yes, sir. Creativity, which we was talking about this morning, the power of creativity in schools. And one more, yes. Access. Now, did anybody hear their idea mentioned? Okay, so can we bring those up here, please? Which one did you have? Creative, right here. We have creative. What else did we have? Respect. Who else had creative? We have respect. Can I borrow your idea incubator, please? We have another idea incubator. Thank you. Anybody else's? You know what this is? This, for a child, is a network. Now, I want you to think about that. This is a network. At a business meeting like this is power. I want you to understand we have some of the most powerful thought leaders in the history of the world in this room right now. We have change agents in here right now that can make all of these things happen. And so what I would encourage us to do is build this network, not only beyond at school, but these are the type of things we ought to be doing here. But I'm going to tell you what, for a 16, 17-year-old kid who has never been through a process like this, they do not understand how to do this. We believe as adults that they have the understanding, and we just take it as a matter of fact. And what we constantly work on with my students is building toolkits for success. And everybody needs different tools at different times. And I think that's really, really, really important. And having that collaborative piece where students seek that out. That was one of the things that the teacher ambassadors talked about the other day, was building a toolkit for collaboration. Because teachers still don't know how to do this. Not just kids. How to handle destructive criticism. Because we all know it's coming. Not everybody plays nice. And I don't want my student, because somebody else doesn't know how to treat another human, to feel bad about his or her idea. So they have to be empowered to learn how to deal with those things. The last thing I'm going to ask you to do, and I'm going to do this for you guys, I want you to take your idea incubator, and I want you to take it like this. Please, everybody pick up. This is the fun part. Please do not injure anyone, all right? And let it go. Thank you. This, my friends, is such a hard process because we own our ideas, sometimes to the point of we destroy them. And we have to let our ideas go. And the other piece that I do with this, and I'm very passionate about, if I can have my slide back up, is every opportunity on the earth, I find a way to celebrate success. We either do it in the form of bringing camera crews on and doing live broadcasts for music. We do book publishings. We host one of the world's largest student-operated film festivals. And I want you to think about this. You're 18 years old. You're a behavior disorder student with autism. You have a lot of anger in your life. You've worked for 3 months to come out of your shell in our classroom, and you get to stand up here on this great stage, and when you walk out, all in a line, and notice how beautiful they look. They all dress up. I had a student last year, had no money whatsoever. And he came to me and said, Mr. F, what should I wear? And I said, son, it is whatever you feel the best in because you make everything look great. He went out to Goodwill that night, bought a $5 suit, and came in and looked like he's ready for the Oscars. And I literally just broke down because that's how bad he wanted to succeed. And this was a kid who had horrible discipline issues and attendance issues. This changed his life. And I want you to think about when you stand out on a stage and 1,500 people stand up in unison and they applaud you for 15 minutes and you just feel that wave of adoration, respect, validation work across your body. And for a child who's bullied at school, who's struggling with self-confidence, getting ready to leave home, grandma just found out she has cancer, dad lost his job, this is what kids call home. And we are their surrogate parents. And it is our moral and ethical obligation to provide more than standardized tests and more than rigid standards, which I am a big fan of, but we've got to provide more. We have to find a way to take that entire idea life cycle through, and that's one tool that we use in our classroom at the start of the year. So I hope you enjoyed my conversation. And are there any questions? Yes?
How does your school district support what you do? How does that relationship work?
I work really, matter of fact, both of my administrators said, we respect what you're doing so much, we have to fly to Dubai and be here with you. So they are here at the summit, and one of them came and shook my hand before I left. So, other questions? Yes?
How would you do it if you didn't feel supported?
I didn't have the support when I started. I didn't have the support at all. But what I think really good at is really drawing out blueprints, talking about, it's always, my conversation is always we, never me. And it's always about the kids and the benefits for them. And then I understand too, a principal has different perspectives and he or she has different obligations to meet. And so I really try to look at it from their perspective, and I always tell them up front, if there is an issue, I will take the blame for it. If I cause the problem, I will be the first person to stand up and I will take care of it. I will never put you in a situation where you're embarrassed, and if something comes up, it is my responsibility. And over time, we've built that trust relationship where they believe in me, and it just works now. But it took a while. And these are new guys that saw what was happening, and they really, and it's transformed our school. Anybody else? Yes?
Is yours a BD program?
No, that's the other thing that I love is I have people come in, they're like, this is the first thing out of their mouth. Yeah, I could do that too if I had your kids. I said, well, really? Yeah, you could. I bet you have them, because if you have a BD student in your classroom, you got my kids. You got a kid living in poverty, you got my kids. You got a kid whose grandma died of cancer, you got my kids. It's not about the kids. I learned that in my second year, and I almost quit. I almost quit because I realized, and I found out the problem was me, and my instruction had to change to meet the needs of my kids. And we ground everything that we do in personalized real-world projects, and the kids just respond because now they have a reason to come to school. We still have ridiculously rigorous standards. We have very high standards. I have, one of Hollywood's leading animators here in the room tonight, and he's one of our mentors. This is what my kids get their grades checked out on is him. And we bring in people from the industry. And we live in the Midwest where Hollywood's a long ways from. But we've made a lot of partnerships to bring people in there. Anybody else? Got time for about one more, yes?
You said earlier that scientists and designers and inventors learn from their mistakes.
Yes.
Is there a particular mistake in your professional life where you think that you learned the most?
Wow. She asked if there was since scientists and doctors and lawyers learn from mistakes, if there was one in my professional life that I learned from one. I've got 32 seconds, so I'll try to get this in really quickly. It was my second year of teaching. I was teaching low-level learners English, and I thought, coming fresh out of college, I should teach just the way I was trained at the university level. I was trained in the science of teaching. I had very little expertise in the art of teaching. And it got to the point where my kids weren't coming to school. They came in one day and said, Mr. Father, I go from dummy math to dummy science to dummy English, and you're an idiot for trying to teach me. And I thought, my gosh, you're 16 years of age and you've given up on life. And I went home that weekend and I told myself, if I don't figure this out, I'm going to find another career because my kids deserve better than that. And I came back with a series of projects and I found out it had to be me figuring out ways to unlock their mysteries and helping them do that together. And so it was me being naive that thinking my formal training was just going to be enough. I had to talk to my kids. And for some adults, that's the hardest thing to do, is to talk to our children. So I think I'm out of time. Thank you so much for coming today.